Hi everybody, this is Andrea again, and this topic is going to be for the newly diagnosed. I've had a hard time with how I wanted to do this particular video. I want to be honest in it, and I don't want to sugarcoat things, but I don't want to scare people either. So first of all, let me just say that everything that I'm going to talk about is based on my perspective and my experiences. I'm a doctor by no means, and you should take up any questions you have with your own physician. So I just wanted to make that clear. Being newly diagnosed with multiple sclerosis is a scary thing, mainly because the disease is so unpredictable. And the bottom line is that it is a progressive disease, that no matter what's going on, no matter how you're feeling, the disease is still attacking your body. And that's hard to live with and to come to terms with. So I guess I'll start at the beginning of my journey. I'm assuming that if you're watching this, that you've already been diagnosed and you've been through the MRIs, the spinal taps, the multitude of blood work, the evoked potential tests, everything that gets you to the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. My relapse that got me diagnosed was pretty severe, and I think that's why I was very fortunate that I got diagnosed incredibly fast. It boggles my mind when I look at some of the other people's stories that I've heard of how long it took them to be diagnosed. Once diagnosed, I, went online and did a lot of research. I'm a bit of a control freak, but I'm a big advocate of being a well-informed patient. Nobody is going to care as much about your health as you are. And so I strongly believe that you educate yourself. It can be overwhelming, and some of the things you're going to read or hear about can be very frightening. But always remember that everybody's disease course runs differently. No two people are the same. We share a lot of the same symptoms and problems, but everybody is different. Everybody responds to different treatments. So you have to weed through everything and make informed decisions for yourself. So I guess one of the main things I can tell the newly diagnosed is to be informed. Research stuff. Once I had all the information of different symptoms, that type of thing, I was diagnosed in September of 2005. But after finding out all the different things, I can pretty much estimate that I began showing symptoms in late 1998, 97, 98, maybe even before that. And all the pieces kind of fell into place, because of I'm diagnosed with the relapsing remitting form, which is basically you have a relapse, and then depending on the severity of it, it kind of dissipates, and in my case it went away in a lot of things, and so then you kind of forget about the weird stuff that happened. But once you can put all the pieces together, you're like, oh, so it wasn't really all in my head. all of these things that I had happening to me finally made sense. I mean, incredible fatigue at times for no reason. I used to be, pretty graceful. I was on the gymnastics team when I was a kid. And then I became the clumsiest person, tripping over my own feet, tripping over things that weren't there, falling down a lot, forgetting things. I actually forgot how to spell my own name, and the doctor had put it off as, well, you're getting older, these things happen. And so everything kind of clicked into place. So then another thing that I want to make sure that being newly diagnosed that people are aware of is that you should start a file immediately of all your medical records, and you get a copy of every single test you've ever had. You get copies of your doctor's notes. You keep a record for yourself. Those are your files, and you have a right to them. I own every copy of every MRI that I've ever had, and I have the big, huge, films. I didn't get them on disc, so they're kind of cumbersome and they're very heavy, but I have all my films and all the written reports that went with them, plus my spinal tap results, my evoked potential, all of your medical records you should be keeping a file of, and you have a right to those. So that is on your journey of this, you make sure you get everything, and then you keep those records, because you might change doctors down the road, you might move, all of these things, but you always want to have your records with you. So that's number 2. First, being well informed. Number 2, keeping your records. Now, I know that the criteria for being put on one of the disease-modifying meds has changed, which is a good thing. Back in 2005, when I was diagnosed, it hadn't gone into effect yet, but I was very lucky that I had a doctor who had no doubts that I had MS, and he put me on a drug immediately. The old standard was based on the McDonald criteria, I think is what it was, where you had to have 2 documented relapses before they put you on MS medication. Now, from what I understand, is at the first sign of MS, they want you on a medication right away, because the drugs, though they are limited as to how much they cut down a relapse, I think it's by a third or so, that's still better than nothing. And we should be very thankful that there are these drugs now, because people who were diagnosed 15, 20 years ago had nothing other than, I think, steroids at the time. And we have so many more drugs now that can manage all the different symptoms that come with MS. And they have a better understanding of how it affects our bodies. And so our quality of life, believe it or not, is still so much better than those that were diagnosed years ago.